The April 8th, 2021 regular meeting of the Utility Board to order. I begin by calling the roll. Dr. Adams?
Present.
Ms. Battle? Mr. Deal?
Present.
Mr. Lowe?
Here.
The mayor is present. Any opening remarks? Dr. Adams?
None.
I'm sorry. Okay. Mr. Deal?
None.
Slow.
No remarks.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. I think the minutes have been circulated. Were there any errors or omissions? If not, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as printed.
So moved. Second.
Motion is there. Motion is second. Any discussion? If not, Dr. Adams?
None.
Okay. Can we call the vote on the approval of the minutes? Dr. Adams?
Yes.
Mr. Deal?
Yes.
Slow?
Yeah.
Votes yes. The next item is a proposal to approve the rate structures for the combined sewer overflow separation plan and stormwater management program. I believe that Mr. Brown is going to make this presentation.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Mayor. Good morning, board members, Ms. Superdan. This item is to address the CSO funding plan. Of course, as mentioned in the agenda item, this CSO plan was presented to the utility board on January 28th of this year, and it was subsequently presented to the full City Commission on February 2nd of this year. And the CSO plan was adopted by the board on February 23rd of this year. So the $105 million plan that has been drafted and by the city staff has now been adopted by the board. And so, of course, the big question now is, how do we pay for it? We know it's something that we have to do. And we actually presented a funding plan at the commission retreat earlier at the latter part of March, on March 21st. And we presented several options. One of those options included a 5% sewer rate increase, some SPLOST funding, and something new that came up at this retreat, as opposed to the retreat we had 6 months ago, was the American Rescue Plan funding. Those dollars were not available when we were trying to look at options of funding this plan. So that certainly made a difference in some of our options. And so in your agenda packet, I did include how this was structured with the 5% increase annually for 5 consecutive years, which would allow us to go out and borrow funding. Also, that document does show the $22 million, $22.2 million in American Rescue Plan dollars, and some other potential options if they are available. But I guess for the utility board's sake, we're looking at the 5% increase in the sewer rate, which for the average customer, which uses about 4,800 gallons a month, would equate to about $1.33 increase per month on their bill. And the other item is the stormwater rate. I also included in your package just one page from a presentation that was made to the commission back in May of 2016. And one thing you noticed on that rate schedule or that revenue model, there was scheduled to be incremental increases in the stormwater rate from $2.50 up to $6.50 by fiscal year 18. Well, those increases did happen in fiscal 16. We went up to $3 per ERU. We went to $4.75 per ERU in fiscal year 17, but we never made that final jump in fiscal year 18. If you recall, that would have been July 1st, 2017. Of course, we had those twin storms back in January of that year. We had some subsequent disasters in other years. And one comment that we made back in fiscal 18 is that we needed to make that change within a 3-year window. Well, that three-year window would have ended last year, July 1st of 2020, which we were in the middle of the pandemic, of course. And so instead of making that adjustment or presenting that at that time, we opted to wait instead. And so, but again, the original plan does call for us to go to 650 per ERU. And so we're asking that we adopt that original rate from 5 years ago to 650. And so those are the two items with regards to rates that we're bringing before the utility board this morning.
Any questions, Dr. Adams?
Yes, Mr. Brown, you mentioned going to 650. How much would that generate fund-wise?
Based on our current revenue for this year, we project our revenue will go up by $1.6 million.
By 1.6 million?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you also mentioned that in the American Rescue Plan that you were gifted with $22 million. Was that related to the article that I read in the Herald about the two new senators that were featured in the paper? Could you just educate me a little bit more on that, the source of those funds?
Yes, sir. Well, Congress passed and the president eventually signed that $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan, and dollars were allocated based on a variety of factors. The city of Albany, I can't think of the name of it, but we're an entitlement city. And so there are formulas based on our population and other factors that would determine what our exact amount of money would be. And sewer infrastructure, there are certain things that we are limited to spending that money on, but sewer infrastructure would be one. And so as we presented this to the board a few weeks ago, there appeared to be a level of agreement that because this is such a big issue for us and an expensive issue, and these American Rescue Plan dollars are available and can be used for this purpose, this would be a viable means of using those dollars. And by getting those dollars, it could reduce the amount of SPLOST allocation that we would possibly have to allocate to this project. And it also could reduce the amount of the increase. We were also looking at, back in October, the possibility of a $7.50, 7.5% rather, increase. Well, that's not on the table any longer because of these dollars. And there's also discussion of an infrastructure bill. If there are additional dollars, such as infrastructure dollars that come to the city of Albany, that could possibly also be used, and also grant dollars. So this is our base case scenario, and I would say maybe a worst case scenario. And we would certainly revisit it if additional dollars, such as this $22 million in the American Rescue Plan, is allocated to the city.
Okay, now, how soon can we expect the flow of these funds, and what would be the schedule of our receiving some of these funds?
Now, we have been told, and it is in writing, that we will get this within 60 days, I guess, of it passing. Now, I am one that would say I will believe that when I see the $11 million in our account. But that is what we've been told, and we'll get the other half a year from then. And so we should expect, we are expecting to get $11 million within 2 months. Okay. We expect to get the other $11 million within a year of that. And so, and that's what we're basing our plan on. I know it sometimes sort of sounds a little bit too good to be true, but that's what's in writing. That's what's been relayed to us. And as soon as we get that $11 million, then I'll make sure I make that known to everyone.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is that all, Dr. Adams?
I'm finished.
Thank you. Ms. Battle? I thought Ms. Battle was with us.
I'm sorry. I had computer problems this morning. Sorry for being late. No questions for me.
Mr. Deal?
No, good explanation.
Mr. Loeb?
Good morning, Mr. Brown. How are you?
Good morning, sir. I'm well. How are you this morning?
I'm doing all right. Going up to 650 on our stormwater rate. The fund has been operating at a deficit. Will this increase allow us to operate in the black within the fund once again?
Yes, sir, it would. In fact, this would be really our first time actually operating that way. And we knew that for years, that it would slowly get to that point. It would take us several years to get to budgeting and operating in the black. And this would get us there. Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear it. I just want to make sure that we might not be having to look at another increase fairly soon. I know I'm jumping ahead in the agenda, but I was curious and wanted to make sure when we do our sewer cost of study that it isn't going to have some impact on the rates that we might pass this morning here for CSO. The additional funds that we're going to get from these rate increases and the various sources, are we actually going to segregate those funds and set them aside specifically for CSO?
Yes, sir. Because of our fund structure, each fund has its own dollars, if you will. And so each fund is self-sufficient, pays for its own project. So if it is for instance, the CSO plan is a sewer plan. And so any potential borrowing that we have to do, we have to show that that fund can support that borrowing. And so
I understand that. I guess my question was, were we going to set up perhaps a sub account or sub fund specifically for CSO for these funds to go in?
Oh, we'll make sure that those funds are separate. I guess you're referring to the American Rescue Plan dollars?
Well, those and actually the increases in the sewer rates. I didn't know if we were going to take that incremental amount and set it aside to assure that we have the funds necessary as we go through.
Well, one part of that plan that was presented as that 10-year plan, it certainly lists additional capital that we would have available that we wouldn't have to borrow, because the plan as is set forth now would require us to go out and borrow up to $35 million based on everything as we know it today. But the 5% increase would also generate approximately $22 million in additional funding within the sewer fund that we would not have to go out and borrow that amount. And so those funds, because we do have we actually have this plan laid out by fiscal year. Mr. Stock did a great job as far as trying to help us layer that out. So we have identified the dollars to the projects by fiscal year. In fact, he even has it broken down by quarter. And so in order to do these projects by year, we have to allocate those funds to those projects. And so we do have a 10-year time frame and schedule by which we will follow. And so those dollars will be allocated for that purpose only. Okay.
You said that to the extent that we might be able to locate other dollars during the course of the 10 years, where we have, just like you identified, the American Rescue Plan, and we got the extra $22 million, which is allowing us to have a smaller increase, if you will, than we would have otherwise. At any point in the past, when we have raised rates, have we ever then subsequent to that lowered the rates?
Not that I can recall. I'm not aware of us doing that. I'm not saying it hasn't happened before, but I would just say in the last 6-7 years, it has not been the case. The last increase outside of a normal CPI that we brought to the board was back in, I want to say fiscal year 18, when we were really experiencing a decline in our sewer throughput and our usage in kilowatt hours. And so that's the last time that's happened, but I don't recall a time where we've actually reversed the rates and went in the other direction. No, sir.
Okay.
Can I weigh in, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am. Oh, what do I do?
I think what we're sharing is it may not necessarily be a reduction, but it may be a cost avoidance. So for example, what we're saying here is 5% a year for 5 years. which Derek has a calculation of what that would be per household, and it really still is a very manageable amount. But what we're saying is, if, for example, we got infrastructure dollars maybe at the same level of what we've gotten with Recovery Act, it could be that you would not have to do additional rate increases for years, 3 and 4, or you may leverage SPLOST. The really great thing, obviously, it's great. It's always great to get federal funding it's not a loan, but not only does it allow us to essentially make a large deposit, 20% deposit, if you will, almost on our 10-year program and our 10-year capital program, but it also allows us not to incur debt and not to incur interest. So just think about how much interest we are avoiding by being able to do pay-as-you-go with those funds.
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
To the extent that we get, and we've applied for other grants, to the extent that we're able to be successful, that's a cost avoidance for the plan and may help us in the future to not have to leverage as much in SPLOST and may not require us to make these rates. But with the information we have in front of us now, this is the plan that will fund the capital. And if you remember, we have a very short string. We have 5 years to reduce the CSO, which is the combined sewer overflow into the river. The EPD has been clear. We're already into year 1. We've already done the first phase of what we need to do. We're getting ready to go out for bid, if not already out for bid, on our first few projects. So this is a very aggressive program. And what we want is buy-in from the utility and the city commission to demonstrate that we have a plan. And obviously, this is a plan that can be modified if more and different funding becomes available.
No, I agree. And I think y'all have done a great job in identifying many different sources rather than us having to go strictly with rate increases, if you will, or as you say, leveraging more of the SPLOST. But what with that avoidance of cost, if in fact we do find funds elsewhere, even if we can avoid it in years 3 and 4 and 5, or 4 and 5, or even beyond that, to me, that's the same as a decrease in our rate.
Right.
So appreciate the explanation. Thank you. And that's all for me.
Ask a question of Ms. Subadan.
Yes.
Okay. Can I have a turn?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead, Dr. Adams. Go ahead and ask Ms. Subadan.
Okay. I just merely want to ask you, what percentage of the Splash Fund are we recommending to the commission that we use for this project?
And this is for future SPLOST. Under this scenario, we're looking at, I think, 8 million in SPLOST. Is that correct, Derek? I'm trying to see the document.
Initially, I guess a 10% commitment, I guess, as far as potential borrowing, plus an additional 8 million. And so I think 10% is probably the main number. And when we met before the American Rescue Plan, that number was high as 30%. So that really, again, those dollars that have been infused has been beneficial. But I think right now we're looking at a minimum of 10% of SPLOST.
Thank you. And obviously that's a heavy lift in itself, because SPLOST is where we can fund so many other things. There's a big interest in recreation, other infrastructure. And so to the extent that we can avoid leveraging SPLOST, I think that's more beneficial to the city as a whole.
If I could, I would like to make a couple of comments. I think, and please understand, I get somewhat confused. This is, you're talking about $100 million is a lot of money. And this American Rescue Act, as I said, was like manna from heaven, because this $22 million is about to be available just as we are going to break ground on these first few projects. But the people on this board, like the commission, we need to be able to explain to the community where this money is going, because I anticipate when our customers see this increase in year 1, year 2, year 3, and they're not getting any additional service, they're going to have a concern, and we need to be able to explain that this project is mandatory. We don't have an option of correcting this problem. And I do think, if I could, Mr. Brown, kind of an 8th grade level, what is ERU?
That is equivalent residential unit. And if I recall correctly, I want to say that's about 2,700 square feet. And so that is the impervious surface cost that's been established. And so the average residential customer, that is the square footage that we use for the average residential customer. So if you, however many square feet you have, that is the baseline for that charge. Okay.
So, I mean, just for clarification here, if someone has a smaller, has less impervious surface, the rate would be less. If they have more, the rate would be more.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Based on that 2,700 square feet, that is correct.
And like I say, I think we might conflate here. We're talking about 2 different rates. We're talking about the sewer rate on the one hand, and how will the sewer rate be increased?
The sewer rate is the 5%. That is based on the average throughput of our customers. That's the one that equates to about $1.33.
And so a month?
Per month, yes, sir.
Okay. And so for full disclosure, what we are proposing here today is to increase the rate by 5% in 5 successive years.
That is correct. Based on the information we have at this moment, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And to follow up with Mr. Loeb's point, these additional revenues will be earmarked for the CSO separation.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
Okay. And that is why we are increasing these rates by 5% a year for 5 successive years.
Yes, sir.
And that translates back to the funding plan of where we are obtaining the revenue to fund the CSO separation.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
And then secondly, would you explain to us what the stormwater rate is? The stormwater utility fee?
Well, that is separate and apart from this CSO plan. Now, of course, the sewer and stormwater do go together to some degree, but before we got, we had the issue with the permit, let's just say we didn't have any issue with EPD whatsoever. This stormwater rate, this was established several years ago to have a fully functional stormwater utility. That revenue model was established several years ago. We just never hit that amount per ERU that was established to support that fund, just really because of this things that have happened in our community. Just being considerate of that, trying not to put that burden on citizens at that time. And so we've just absorbed losses in that fund as a result, but it has always been the plan to go to 650. And we just feel like at this moment, we're to continue to budget losses. Obviously we did it for as long as we could bear it, but now it's time to really get this stormwater utility to become fully functional.
So what the stormwater utility fee will be allocated specifically for operation of the stormwater system.
Yes, sir, that is correct.
And none of this $6.50 an hour is going to be channeled or allocated to the CSO.
No, sir.
Okay. Just wanted to get that straight for, and one thing, I know we've been through it previously, but for the utility board at an upcoming meeting, if we could have a presentation so we can all get on the same page, and I'm certainly not an authority on it because I'm looking at this, the 10-year capital planning. We have $1 million a year in additional capital. I see where the 5% annual increase, the SPLOST, and the American Rescue Plan money is coming from, but I think we all need to have a better idea of these other funding sources. So as I say, you know, Mr. Brown, that when we go in the community, we can explain how we're going to fund this in addition to why we have to fund this.
Yes, sir. I'd be happy to do that.
I appreciate it. Any other questions, Dr. Adams? Ms. Battle?
None for me.
Mr. Deal?
Yes, Mr. Brown, I want to make sure I understand this. I understand that, you know, that the FY18 rate of 650 did not come about due to the storms and whatever was going on in the community, but that will be the rate for 2021, correct? So we have, for 3 years, we've not had an increase. Am I reading that correctly?
Well, this would actually be going into effect. Well, the last increase was in fiscal 17, which would have been July 1st, 2016. And so that's the last increase we had was July 1st, 2016. Our next increase would be July 1st, 2021. And so you're looking at, I guess that's 5 years since we had an increase in the stormwater.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that I'd like to share with the community when we're asked about this increase. That, you know, for 5 years, the rate has stayed the same. And I just wanted to make sure I understood that correctly.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Ms. Logue, any other questions?
No more questions for me. Thank you.
Okay. So, Ms. Superintendent, we need a resolution approving the proposed increases.
We need a motion and a vote.
Okay. I would prefer to, I actually see this as two different agenda items, but it's been presented as one. So could we, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the proposed sewer rate increase of 5% per year for the next 5 years, with the understanding that we could revisit the proposed 5% increase in successive years should there be sufficient funds to cover the cost of the project.
So moved.
Second.
A second, any discussion? Dr. Adams?
None.
Ms. Battle?
None.
Mr. Deal?
No.
Ms. Lowe?
No.
Call the question. Dr. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Battle?
Yes.
Mr. Deal?
Yes.
Lowe?
Yes.
Mayor votes yes. The next item, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the proposed increase of the stormwater utility fee from current $4.82 to $6.50 effective July 1st, 2021.
So moved.
Motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Dr. Adams?
Yes. I'd just like to briefly say that we have failed to increase over a period of years, and then all of a sudden we make a huge leap to that 6.5. But I would like to suggest in the future, if we, and I understand why we didn't increase during certain years, but in the future, I would like to recommend that we stick to our schedule rather than making one big leap, because that can cause a kind of a shock to the citizens rather than the continuing to increase as we had planned. Am I making myself understood, Mr. Brown?
Yes, sir. Point
Hello?
taken. Yes, sir. Point taken.
Well, I think the COLA increase will sort of address that, won't it, Mr. Brown?
Right. We did vote that in a few months ago, and so we will have those incremental increases. So that will happen from year to year.
So, but Dr. Adams, okay, any further, is that all, Dr. Adams?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. Motion is second. Any further discussion, Ms. Battle?
None.
Mr. Deal?
None.
Flo?
None.
Call the question on the proposed increase of the stormwater utility fee. Dr. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Battle?
Yes.
Mr. Deal?
Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. And the next item on the agenda is a proposal to consider the purchase of 10 pickup trucks. There are two options, a gas option and a hybrid option. Ms. Fields and Mr. Bednar.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Consider approving a contract with Sunbelt Ford for the purchase of one F-150 6-foot bed crew cab 4x4 and 8 F-150 Super SWB. He can explain that. Super cabs and one F-150 long wheelbase super cab for an expenditure of $256,804. That's for the gas option, or $311,597 for the hybrid option. This was bid, duly advertised, bid reference 21048R, advertised in the Herald, Channel 16, published on the GPR. Open bids on March 4th. The decision here is whether you want to go with gas or with hybrid, and I'm going to let Mr. Bednar explain that.
Good morning, everyone. Mayor, commissioners, city managers. So I'm going to try to be brief on this. We did a lot of studies. We looked at a lot of different things in relations to this purchase versus the hybrid versus our standard pickups that we have currently in the fleet. Part of the issue here is that this hybrid truck really isn't what you would typically call a hybrid vehicle when you're comparing it to the standard vehicle. In this case, this is not a fleet truck at all. This is really a high retail market truck. It's not as simple as just saying it has a hybrid engine on it. This particular truck, they added a twin turbo engine on it. For city driving, a twin turbo is not recommended. It would cost us a tremendous amount in maintenance and downtime. There's a lot of other issues when they package this deal as a hybrid. You can only get it in a crew cab 4-door, which we definitely do not need because a lot of these occupants are single driver. So you're paying quite a bit more. The difference in cost is over $7,000. We looked at a lot of the maintenance items. If you were to lose a battery, that's $9,700 on a hybrid. There is additional components with when you have a twin turbo that you end up dealing with. And just to explain the twin turbo, this truck will do, in a hybrid version, will do 0 to 60 in 5.3 seconds. And if you want to do a comparison, the Mustang GT does that in 5 seconds. So it's just not a truck that I would recommend for the fleet and city driving and idling. Turbos are made to run. They're made to run on open road. They're made to be able to be cooled that way. This vehicle, unfortunately, as it's used in the city, I think it would end up costing us considerable amount of money in not just maintenance, but in downtime. Also, the components are different on this truck. I have to go to 18-inch wheels and tires. That means I can't use my current inventory because we try to standardize as much as we possibly can to drive down the cost and also drive down, everything else, training, parts, etc. So I guess I strongly recommend not doing this hybrid twin turbo and sticking to our standard pickup. And I tried to shorten that up as best I could. We got a lot of information, but I don't want to go into the fine details, but I will be glad to answer any questions that you have.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Bednar. Any questions, Dr. Adams?
Yes, I do. After that report, my question basically is why was that recommended as a consideration? Almost, I think you said 7,000, but that's a difference of 70,000 almost. Is that? Am I calculating that correctly?
Yeah, it's about $7,000 per truck. Yes.
Oh, okay.
The reason we do what I do is that if there's a vehicle out there that has a comparable hybrid vehicle, we bring you both options because we are trying to green the fleet, but you have to be careful of what that means. But one thing I do want to stress is every time we replace a vehicle, we are greening the fleet. So when I look at our standard engine, would get 8 miles per gallon more than what the vehicles that we're replacing. So every time we buy a new vehicle, we are definitely having a positive impact on miles per gallon and CO emissions. So,
okay, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Battle? Ms. Battle?
No questions. Sorry, it muted me.
Deal.
No, I would like to make a comment. I was glad to see that we were able to do business locally with Sunbelt Ford.
And I think that's a function of the local preference option, isn't it, Ms. Field?
Sometimes it is. I think he
Actually had the low bid?
Yeah, I don't think he had the low bid this time. Yeah, this was the local preference, and he exercises it whenever he gets a chance.
Okay. Well, that's a positive thing then. Is that all, Mr. Deal?
Yeah, but I would agree that we should not go with the hybrid option.
Okay, Mr. Loeb?
Yes, Mr. Bednar, thank you for that explanation and pointing out and being candid with us on the additional cost that might be incurred. Typically, when you think of a hybrid, you think it's actually going to save you money over time, but that is not the case here. Appreciate that, and also appreciate you pointing out how much cleaner we are, even with the standard vehicles, and it's making a considerable difference as we replace them. One question I had though, and one thing I noted, I think that Sunbelt, although it was the local preference, I think they did agree that they would match the low bid. So I hope that we will take advantage of that.
Yes, sir, that's actually a requirement of the local preference. They have to match the low bid.
Okay, thank you. I didn't realize that. The other thing is, we talked about how we were going to use the vehicles, where they would go. We're buying 10, but you only...
You're muted, Stan. Stan, you're muted.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Sharon. Was I muted the entire time?
Yeah, almost.
Well, I'll try to make it more brief. Thank you again, Mr. Bednar, and you too, Ms. Fields, for pointing out that they did, Sunbelt as local does match. We are buying 10, we only show that we're using 8. Who gets the extra 2?
We want we placed bets on who would catch our mistake. And we figured you would be the one to catch it.
Well, you know, I have a thing for numbers. They're supposed to add up.
Peter, you want to weigh in? We actually had reduced this because there were 2 solid waste vehicles on there. But after the board agreed that we're going to outsource the east side, we pulled the 2 solid waste vehicles because they're no longer necessary. And we failed to correct. Peter has a use for 2 others, but we failed to correct the fiscal impact part of the agenda item. So Peter, do you want to weigh in on where the 2 additional are going?
Well, we still have additional needs in utilities. And so I think one of these trucks, I believe they hired a project manager. So I'm imagining that's where that one's going to go, because that is still one that we still owe utilities. We just have quite a few expenses moving forward with additional trucks. So I'm not afraid that we're not going to find homes for these at all. So when you look at the mileage on these, 255,000, 175,000, 258,000. So you could see that it's quite the number. And with just the 8 that we have, we were at 1.4 million miles. So on average, we're over 12 years. We got quite a few maintenance expenses. So replacing is really a terrific option for all of us. So.
Okay, well, thank you. And I would like to commend you on the keeping your fleet going for that long, the life of those. And when you look at those mileage levels on those vehicles, you got to remember those are all local miles. They hadn't been out on the road, I don't suspect, traveling from here even to Atlanta and back, a couple of times a week or anything. So thanks, and that's all my questions.
Mr. Lowe. Mr. Bednar, did you say one reason you didn't like the hybrid was because it came in just a super cab?
Yes, sir. It's a crew cab, actually. It's the full 4 doors.
Okay. And so you're not buying any crew cabs?
We buy them very seldom, and it's usually, maybe I'll buy them for facilities grounds crew where they have several people in the vehicle and they're towing a trailer and they got 3 mowers and they're going to go mow. That is about the only time we're buying that type of a crew cab truck. So, well,
I'm always an advocate for hybrid vehicles, and you have a lot of information. I wish you'd have provided us some more information. You have a legitimate concern about the maintenance. I was reading about this vehicle, and apparently Ford made the decision to put the turbocharged engine in there to maintain the towing power, the horsepower. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe that's one of the preferences. I think this truck is made to have a high performance aspect of it, and it's really geared toward the retail market. It has that generator in the back so that the weekend warriors can watch football and so forth. So it has some other options in there that we just wouldn't use.
What I read about the generator is you can take it onto a job site and use it. That's another option, isn't it?
It is, and they have 3 different kilowatts of generators for use. But since I've been here, I have not had one person ask me that they needed to run tools. Most of the tools in most of our crews are battery operated. But it's a nice option. Like I said, I think for the weekend warrior, it's a pretty good truck for them. But for a fleet vehicle for the city, I just would not recommend it.
Well, it also has 20% increased fuel efficiency, doesn't it?
Well, I looked at the combo miles per gallon. The combo is 25 with the hybrid. It is 20 with the standard engine that we would use. I looked at the cost for 10 vehicles over the life cycle of 8 years, because you want to get rid of these hybrids when the battery warranty and the hybrid portion expires. You don't want to run them because then you got a huge expense if you lose a battery. So when I looked at that, looked at the savings, and if I used, I used $2.30, which is our current rate, we would still be in the hole at $23,408 if we were to move forward. And that does not include any maintenance, any other items. That's strictly fuel. Now, yeah.
Okay, well, so to get back to Dr. Adams' point about why would you even recommend the hybrid, there would be a significant savings in fuel costs, would there not?
There would be, but it would not offset the cost of the hybrid.
Well, that's assuming that you can continue to get gas for $2.30 a gallon for the next 5 years, doesn't it?
Well, it does, yes. And then I ran numbers higher than that, up to $3. And even at $3, it was still a loss. I'm guessing that you would end up having to be in the high fours in order for it just to pay off on fuel. That doesn't include any maintenance and anything else.
There's also benefits to the environment because of the lower carbon emissions, isn't it?
There is. I mean, there's definitely a difference in the CO savings per year. It's not as big because you're going from 25 to 20 miles per gallon. So, there is, like I said, we're gaining no matter what we're doing. We are gaining at least 8 miles per gallon with the vehicle replacement. And that does have substantial CO when you're looking at how many miles we're using, how many gallons we're using. So,
okay. And is the gas engine, is that an 8-cylinder or 6-cylinder?
The gas engine is an 8-cylinder.
Okay. And lastly, did you ever consider in the fact that the hybrid, as I understand it, when it idles, it doesn't burn gas, does it?
When it idles, it's still, I guess it all depends on how much energy it's putting out at the time. So if the AC's on, if they're actually using like the generator, I think it really matters at that point. So I can't really answer that because again, this is a brand new truck. So there's a lot of information that's not available, and my peers across the country don't have any of them. So I don't get to use their expertise in real life settings, And the miles per gallon, I can tell you, I've been doing this for a lot of years, and this is what Ford puts out. I don't think that's going to be what we are actually going to see,
Okay. Well, the point I'm trying to make, Mr. Bednar, is Mr. Loeb observed that most miles on our city vehicles are within a short distance, one job to the other, usually within the bounds of the city. That's correct, isn't it?
That is correct, yes.
And I often see city vehicles that are idling at job sites. And I don't know, that may be an operation issue we need to address. But the point I'm making is that is not included in the energy consumption, that being the amount of time a vehicle is idling.
Right. When we did our calculations, we put together 1 hour of idle time per day. We just use that.
Okay.
It may be higher, maybe less, but that's what we put in. The regular engine, the gasoline engine, we are buying all those trucks with what we call the start-stop technology. And the goal is that to again drive the fuel costs down, drive the emissions down. So if they idle, the truck will shut off, and if we're using emergency lighting and that kind of stuff, and it feels like it needs to fire up that alternator, to fire up the battery, to maintain the emergency lights, it does it automatically.
Okay. Just in the future, could we see those computations when we have a option of a hybrid or a gas or diesel engine, so we can intelligently discuss on what the savings are?
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Any further questions, Dr. Adams?
Not a question, but a comment. I like the idea of the vehicle cutting off when it's idle. I had the pleasure of riding in one of those type vehicles, and I was astonished. I even thought that the car had completely stopped. You know what I mean? But I like that. Mm-hmm.
So the gas vehicles have that capability, Mr. Bednar?
Yes, sir. That's what we're buying. And Stacy Rowe, I think, is on the line, and he's got one, so he can tell you if you.
Okay. Any further questions or comments, Ms. Battle?
None.
Mr. Deal?
No.
Mr. Loeb?
None.
Okay, the chair would entertain a motion to approve a contract for the purchase of the, is it 10 units, Ms. Subadan?
Yes, sir. We are going to go.
Okay.
So moved.
This is the non-hybrid, right? The non-hybrid.
Correct.
Correct.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Dr. Adams?
I just want to be sure that we're voting on the non-hybrid deal.
Yes, sir. It's a gas pickup truck.
Thank you.
Ms. Battle, any discussion?
None.
Mr. Deal?
None.
Loeb?
None.
Okay, we'll call the question. Dr. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Battle?
Yes.
Mr. Deal?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Mayor votes no. Is this a purchase that the utility board can make without the consent of the commission?
No.
It's got to go to it's got to come to the commission because it's over 200,000.
So it will be a recommendation.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is, I think this is more confusing for me than the sewer and stormwater. It looks like we have a contract with, is it 8 different subcontracts, Ms. Fields, Mr. Norman?
It's actually 4. They came in that way as separate contracts, but when you add them all together, it came out to this $114,850. It's all for with Data Voice International to do the SCADA upgrades for the utility department. Norman has provided certain pros and cons, and I think he can explain it a whole lot better than me.
Okay. Ms. Norman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, board members, and Madam Short-Timer. These are individual upgrades for our outage management system. We come before y'all a couple of years ago, and y'all approved the Data Voice outage management system that we use that shows our customers outage maps. We can show the outages on a map, and our energy control operators use that system to monitor outages and keep track of the system. The reason we're bringing all these at one time, we had a capital funding project this year for some SCADA upgrades that we got some quotes on last year that were extremely high. Thanks to our tech department being very frugal and working through it, they were able to perform those upgrades at a fraction of the cost that it was expected. So our request today is asking you all to approve us to use those remaining funds to perform these upgrades on the outage management system. If there are any specific questions to any of the items, I'd be glad to address them.
If I could, Ms. Norman, we have threshold notification for managers, IVR notification of planned electrical outages, cuts and jumpers, training server with electric outage replay, AVL basic system, distribution management for SCADA. I don't know what SCADA is, workforce management, and device outage notification to managers. If you could sort of explain to us what those different services are.
Yes, sir. I'll start out with the workforce management. That would be a tool that right now, the outage management system, the energy control operators can send work orders directly to the linemen, to their tablets and phones on an outage. It does not, if there's a tree on the line or a car hits a pole or streetlight poles knocked down, something like that, they have to send that work order on a separate system. This would allow them to send any electrical related work order through that same system. So the linemen in the field do not have to keep up with two different systems. The AVL basic system, as the previous conversation about the vehicles, this system has the ability to track where a vehicle is. We do not have the equipment in the vehicles to track them. What this AVL system will do, it will allow us to track the linemen by their tablets. So energy control operator can look at their screen, they'll know exactly which lineman is closest to the problem and be able to dispatch more efficiently. Distribution management for SCADA, this will tie our SCADA system directly to the outage management system. Right now, the operator sees an operation on our SCADA system, which the SCADA system is a system that monitors our individual breakers and devices in the field.
Okay.
So they see an outage on a breaker, they display it on the map. IVR notification of planned outages. If we've got a schedule to change out the pole at the mayor's house, scheduled for this Friday, the IVR system, when we put it in the system, it would automatically call you and make you aware that we have an outage schedule for your area on that date. The device outage notification for managers. If a particular device is of particular interest, just say the lift stations, we can tag every transformer at every lift station, and if that device goes out, it will automatically send Stacy and Jeff a notice that transformer is out at that station. The threshold notification is more so for like the city manager. If we have, say she wants to know anytime over 100 customers are out, it would automatically send her a notification. So you can set it up different thresholds for different managers. The training server for the electric outage replay. Right now, if we bring a new customer service rep or a new energy control operator on, we have to schedule their training through Data Voice, and they use a system that they have set up just for generic training. This will allow us to basically mirror our system, put it on a server so that anyone we bring in new can train on our system. They will be using a system that's identical to ours, mirrored perfectly to what we have without affecting our live system. cuts and jumpers is similar to the devices. Right now, if we have a breaker that trips and a whole section of line is out, and we can go to a certain junction pole and cut jumpers and energize that breaker back up, it shows everybody coming back on. This will allow us to ping that map and show exactly where we cut the jumper. And so those customers are aware that they are still out. So that's a basic explanation for each one.
All right, thank you, Mr. Norman. I think we all got a better understanding now. Any questions, Dr. Adams?
I just had one question. Several years ago, we invested over $700,000 in a GPS system that we were able to track city vehicles, the fire station, and police department, and etc. And Mr. Norman mentioned something about tracking his vehicles, and that's just one aspect of the whole scenario that he's discussing. I understand that, but my question would be, is there any way that any other GPS needs could be tied into this system that we invested? I think it was somewhere about $800,000 several years ago. And how is that system working? Is it being used? I don't know. I'm asking the question. Maybe Ms. Subadan or somebody else can answer.
That system was actually, it was installed through our old radio system. It was a GPS tracker that was through the radios in the vehicles. And since we've updated all the radios a couple of years ago to the new frequency that we were mandated to go to, that system went away with the old radio system. So we do not have it any longer.
No, are we talking about the same system?
It's the same. I mean, you say a few years ago, Dr. Adams, but it's probably more 10 or 12 years ago. With the rate of change of technology, the old radio-based system became outdated years ago. And as Jimmy said, we've gone to 800 megahertz radios years ago as well, and it doesn't support. What I like with this particular system is, and it's in the top. So if an operator moves from vehicle to vehicle, the AVL goes. What we've learned is the hardware in the vehicles generally are more expensive and less flexible. So this is a much more updated application for a significant lower amount of money. We get everything that Jimmy just described to you for $115,850.
Mm-hmm.
And SCADA, Mayor, is the supervisory control and data. Basically, it's the system that we use to monitor everything from sewer to electric.
Is that all, Dr. Adams?
I guess I'm just kind of still in shock. It seemed like we wasted $700,000.
I think it worked
well.
Move on. It worked well for the time. I think about everybody did it at the time. Where I came from, we used AVL in that original form as well. Jim, remember, that was a Motorola product. And it worked well. It was the first time we were getting that kind of technology. It was very helpful to us. But technology changes, we all know that the first iterations of GPS that we even had in our cars were a separate unit, like Never Lost and things like that. Now we have GPS on our phone.
Now, I guess you stimulated another question, and the question would be that if we invested in this new deal that we're discussing now. And if there are any technological changes or upgrades, do we have a plan? Will they give us credit for anything, or is there anything in the contract that will make sure that we don't just lose the complete 100,000 plus and have to go to a new system without getting any type credits?
Well, this is actually an upgrade of the system that we already have. And so periodically you will see upgrades to you. Like I said, just like with every other technology, not that we're trying to keep the latest model, but in 3 or 4 years, this will be upgraded as well. Can't really say what that cost is going to be, but we have invested heavily in SCADA. And so it's and they are all over the country. So it's this type of system generally is upgraded. You don't necessarily have to scrap it and start over. It is a scalable system that allows you to upgrade over time as more functionality becomes available.
So they have us by the nose then, it seems. Okay, thank you.
These are great features to help serve our customers and puts us, modernizes our utility and certainly helps us to be a lot more customer centric so that we can let our customers know what is happening before it happens. Let our supervisors know, let our staff know. It certainly puts us in the driver's seat and allows us to maximize our effectiveness.
Is that all, Dr. Adams?
That's it.
Ms. Battle?
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, good. Sorry, being muted. Well, I can tell you I appreciate the feature, being that in this day society, a lot of us are now working from home. So I'm accustomed to being in other cities where you get the alert that there's going to be an outage and we can kind of prepare in advance. But having had an outage here before and not knowing, I was in panic mode and was trying to call everyone. So I definitely, as a customer, can appreciate that advance notice that there will be an outage. Great feature.
Mr. Deal?
Jimmy, I have one question. I read this in a hurry, but I'm assuming this dollar amount was in the budget.
Yes, sir. Like I say, we had a different project funded that we were able to do at a very small fraction of our original thought. So it will be funded under that capital account. So it is in the budget.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lowe? Stan?
Yes. Just a few questions. One for Nathan Davis. Nathan, are you satisfied with this agreement?
I haven't seen this actual contract.
Well, I think it might be wise for you to take a look at it before we execute. And if your answer had been differently, it would have made a lot of my questions go away. But if it would make more sense for me to talk to you separately rather than hold the meeting up, I'll be happy to do that as well. But
yeah, feel free to call late this afternoon if you want. I'll look at it.
Okay, I'll do that.
Can I interrupt you, Mr. Lowe?
Certainly.
Your point's well taken. I think we can go ahead and discuss this, but I think rather than take a vote, we might need to wait until the next meeting till the city attorney has an opportunity to review the contract, because if you call him this afternoon and he identifies problems, we've already going to be, I think, taking action on it. So,
well,
but go ahead.
That was kind of the reason for my question, and thank you, Mayor.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No. There are just several things in there that that even for and I look at this, one of the things that I saw is we're contracting with Data Voice. Finally, at the very end, I saw where, but then any increase can come about according as Harris increases it. So I figured that Data Voice must be a reseller of this software, but it turns out that they are a subsidiary, I think, that must be part of Harris and in part of the ultimate owner that I don't recall the name of who they were. But there's some real broad statements in there. Another thing is just with respect to warranty, it talks about how there is supposedly a page where we choose the warranty we want, and I could never find a page in any of the different agreements. It talks about warranty, about it being limited, and then you could almost read that there is no warranty at all. It is so limited. So I would just feel better if Mr. Davis has a chance to review this agreement.
I certainly think that would be the prudent course, but since we have it on the table, can we go ahead and discuss this? And then we'll entertain a motion to
oh, certainly.
Continue the.
I don't have a problem at all with that.
And our apologies. I really thought this went through, Nathan. So that's our error.
Yeah, I thought he got a copy of it too when the packets went out.
Well,
I commend Mr. Logue. I commend Mr. Logue for looking over. I didn't get mine until yesterday. So, but go ahead, Stan. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. And Nathan, would you just like me to give you the provisions or the sections that I think you ought to pay attention to?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Or I can do that this afternoon. It's whatever everyone wants me to do.
Why don't you go ahead and tell us now so we can all look at it?
Okay. And all of them, it's basically the same agreement. There's just a different page that outlines what particular software or service we'll be getting. Page 5 under license fees for applications, little c, it talks about price increases. And this would be for future and additional stuff, but it talks about Harris, not Data Voice. So that was one of my questions. And then on page 7 under responsibilities, well, let me go back one because I just actually saw something else. When it talks about responsibilities of Data Voice, it says that during the term of the agreement, they will take commercially reasonable measures too. So it actually allows them to fulfill these responsibilities, or if they don't think that it's commercially reasonable, they don't have to. And they don't have to go to any great extent. But then when it talks about responsibilities of the customer, it says at all times during the agreement, we shall. And it lists all things. And page 7, under responsibilities of the customer, little n, it says that customer will not install any software without written Data Voice approval. Well, software in this case is a lowercase s. It's not the uppercase S that I would expect, which would talk to the particular software that we are purchasing in that event. To me, it almost means that we're agreeing that we're not going to do anything with any other software provider. We're not going to install anything else within Albany Utilities because that's the customer without Data Voice's specific approval.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I just have a question. Since this has not gone through our city attorney, and since Mr. Lowe has pointed out some significant issues with this, would it be appropriate at this time to table this issue until this takes the correct route and then bring it back for discussion and approval? Or
yeah, I think that was the intent Dr. Adams, but what I wanted to do, since we'd already got to Mr. Logue, was just go around the table and finish the discussion, and then I'd entertain a motion to table it.
I got you.
If we could. Okay, Stan.
On page 8, under security responsibilities of the customer, little b is compliance with laws. We are representing and warranting that we are never going to do anything wrong, not by mistake or otherwise. And it seems that if we ever do, we could be in breach of this agreement. I didn't much like that broad statement either. Under obsolescence on page 9, it's paragraph 11, it talks about data voice will not be responsible for replacement cost of obsolete operating system software or covered hardware. I know we're buying a server, so that would be some of the hardware. I'm not sure what they consider covered hardware unless it's any device that any of this equipment is using. And I can understand how it's up to us to take care of our hardware, but they're supposed to be providing, I thought, patches and updates and things that would prevent the software. But once again, I don't know about this operating system software, what they're talking about there. But we just need to be careful about that. Then we move into warranty in paragraph 12. And the warranty, it was supposed to be determined on the warranty options selection page. And that's the page that I could not find. And then there's the warranty disclaimer. Need to just be careful as we go through that. Then there's the limitations of liability. Just need to make sure that Nathan is fine with that. And then typically, and I can't recall, but it seems that where business is done is typically where you'll have the choice of law. And this choice of law is in Collins County, Texas, which I take it is where Data Voice is. I would certainly prefer it to be here in Dougherty County as opposed to in Texas. And I think those were the big issues.
Okay. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Ms. Logue?
I mean, from as far as functionality goes, I think it's an excellent idea. I think it's great that we are upgrading our technology. I think that our technology department, as Mr. Norman pointing out, having saved us some money on another project, which freed up this money to allow us to undertake these upgrades. All of those are very positive and very good things. I just want to make sure that we're adequately protected and our council has an opportunity to review the agreement before we sign.
I just have a few comments and then we'll entertain a motion. I mean, I understand that this board needs to be prepared to, and that's why I appreciate Mr. Norman explaining to us what we're actually considering here, because there are certain people in the community that take the position, if the utility board didn't spend so much money on technology, vehicles, and equipment, we could lower our rates. But as the city manager said, these systems are essential to improving the service we provide our customers. We just need to know what the services are. The one thing I saw here, and I want to be corrected, I did this math with pen and paper the whole way, but it looks like the recurring annual cost are $23,646. Has anybody calculated that figure out? We'll just get it next time. Is that okay? So we know exactly what the annual cost is going to be. This isn't just a one-time expenditure, I think. So, but that's not a significant figure. It makes me feel a lot better. But there again, these provisions in the contract we have to look out for. But with that, with the understanding that the city attorney has not yet had an opportunity to review these proposals, the chair would entertain a motion to table this issue to the next meeting of the utility board.
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Any discussion? Dr. Adams?
I've forgotten my parliamentary procedure, but on the motion to table, is there, does it go through discussion? No discussion.
Is it, Nathan?
The discussion.
Okay, I'm sorry, Dr. Adams, you're correct. So there's no discussion on a motion to table. We'll call the question. Dr. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Battle?
Yes.
Mr. Deal? Mr. Deal?
Muted. Sorry, I was muted. Yes.
Mr. Loeb?
Yes.
Yeah, Mayor votes yes. The item is tabled to the next meeting of the utility board. The next item on the agenda is to consider a request for proposal for an electric cost of service study. Mr. Stock and Mr. Carter. Mr. Stock, do you have this item?
Yes, Mayor. Good morning. Good morning, board.
Good morning.
As you recall, at our March 25th meeting, one of the recommendations provided by GDS Associates was for Albany Utilities to perform an electric cost of service study. And as I recall, there was quite a bit of interest in looking at that option. For knowledge, most utilities perform such studies every few years just to make sure their rates are in line with each customer class contribution to the overall costs that are incurred by the utility. There was a secondary request for electric cost of service study that came at the City Commission retreat on March 20th. One of the sub kind of components of that request was that we look at the gap between the winter and summer rates and to see if there might be a methodology to maybe shrink that gap and make that more uniform. So we're happy to do that. So this request is just for authorization to proceed with an RFP to pursue an electric cost of service study, which of course, once we had the results of that RFP, we would bring that back to you for approval.
Adams?
Hello?
No questions?
No question.
Ms. Battle? Ms. Battle?
No question.
Mr. Deal?
I don't have any questions.
Ms. Loeb?
Just a point of clarification, Mr. Scott. When we talk about the cost of service, we're to our customers. We're talking about looking at not only the cost, fixed and variable, associated with our purchase of wholesale power that we then sell to our customers, but we're also talking about all of the costs associated with operating as the electric utility. Correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct. All cost.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further.
Okay, Mr. Stock, for the benefit of the public, and so is it correct that you have different rates that apply in the summer and in the winter?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
And which rates would be higher?
Summer rates are typically higher, and the reason is that for most utilities, that's typically when their highest energy consumption usage occurs. And so in order to try to incentivize or to incentivize a certain usage pattern, they tend to set the rates a little higher to encourage people to use a little less to create a more flat usage of energy. But given that our rates that the utility pays for the wholesale do not really have a peak component that stresses the system, it's okay to look at a system that might minimize that impact summer to winter.
Okay. Thank you. And we need to, do we need a resolution authorizing staff to circulate a RFP, Ms. Subadan?
Sir.
Okay. The chair would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Dr. Adams?
None.
Ms. Battle?
None.
Mr. Deal?
None.
Mr. Lowe?
None.
Okay. We've called the question. Dr. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Battle? Mr. Deal?
Yes.
Lowe?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. And the next item is similar. It is seeking a request for proposal to evaluate the sewer cost of service. Mr. Stock, can you explain this for us, please?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Thank you. So yeah, exactly. This is similar to the last item, except for the sewer utility. This was also discussed at the commission retreat in the latter part of March. And you actually touched on it earlier this morning when you talked about the CSO funding plan. And so we would request that seek permission from the board to go out for a cost of service study for the sewer system as well.
And the cost would be?
I'm sorry, sir?
And the projected cost of the study?
The estimated cost is approximately $40,000, but of course, we will come back to you with the final numbers as the results of the RFP.
Okay. Any questions, Dr. Adams?
None.
Ms. Battle?
None.
Mr. Deal?
None.
Lowe?
Just point of clarification again, Mr. Stock, since we did recommend that the city approve the rate increases for the CSO plan, will we look forward in this study, assuming some action is taken regarding the CSO?
Yes, sir, most definitely.
Okay, thank you.
My only comment is some of my colleagues pointed out that some cities charge higher rates for users who are outside the corporate limits. I would be opposed to that. I want to say that from the front end. I think it would be counterproductive. But with that, the chair would entertain a motion to authorize staff to issue RFP.
So moved.
Motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Dr. Adams?
None.
Ms. Battle?
None.
Mr. Deal?
None.
Ms. Lowe?
None.
Call the question. Dr. Adams?
Yes.
Ms. Battle?
Yes.
Mr. Deal?
Yes.
Ms. Lowe?
Yes.
Mayor votes yes. Okay. Any other matters to come before the board at this time? Dr. Adams?
None.
Ms. Battle?
You know what? I do have a question. And I think Dr. Adams brought this up the last meeting. And I'm sorry, and I know the city manager responded to it, but I just want to be clear because I don't think I get clarity on it. And his question was about using inmates to aid in cleaning up the city. I mean, could it be, is it possible, or why are we not doing it, or, want to know more about that?
Yes, Ms. Battle, we do that. Well, we were doing that on a regular basis, both with the states and with our Doherty County Jail. I think we even reached out to the facility in Lee County, and we were doing very specific areas where they would go and pick up trash. The challenge we have is they did that in a 15-passenger van. And when the pandemic started, they discontinued that because of social distancing. And they really restarted that. We have the same thing even with our litter crews. In order to work through this, we have to transport them in separate vehicles. It makes it very cumbersome. But we have used inmate labor, and at an appropriate time when the jail is ready to restart that, we certainly will do that again.
Thank you.
Mr. Deal? Deal? Any other matters?
No, sir.
Mr. Loeb?
Just one quick question. In our last meeting, and actually I remembered it because of the minutes, we talked about forming a power supply committee and perhaps meeting a couple of times a year, something like that. And I thought that we were going to put it on this agenda, but we did not. Is there any interest in doing that, or do we just want to continue as we are?
Mr. Lowe, I can address that question. So I am preparing a charter for that group, but I just didn't have it ready in time for this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. On the other matters, it's come to my attention, and I may be incorrect. I thought the utility board met on the 2nd and 4th Tuesday. The city clerk told me that utility board meets on the 2nd and 4th Tuesday unless there are 5 Tuesdays in the month, in which event the utility board meets on the 2nd and 5th Thursdays. I'm sorry, not Tuesdays, Thursday of the month. It would be a lot better for me in scheduling matters if we could definitely say the utility board meets on the 2nd and 4th Thursdays of the month, if that would be agreeable with everyone. The city attorneys advised that there's no set time in the city charter, so the utility board can make its own determination about when it meets. Is that correct, Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Does anybody have an objection, a problem with that?
No, other than the fact that we have already got that schedule on our calendar, so we would need maybe, at least a month's notice before we changed it, I think.
Okay, well, I cannot be here on the 29th. I have a hearing in Perry, and so.
Well, can we move it to the 28th?
I have to be at my office, Mr. Deal. I couldn't. But what we'll do is, if we can't get a date to reschedule it, somebody else will have to preside at the meeting.
No, I would rather you preside. Vernesta called me yesterday, and I'd already planned to be out of town on the 22nd, which is, I think, the day you wanted to have it. And yes, I can just miss the meeting. I'd rather you be there than me.
Well, it's a challenge sharing the meeting with nobody here, but well, I'll see if I can. The 28th works. If it works for everybody else, we'll reschedule for that day. But going forward, I'd like us to consider having the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays. So with that, next other business items for the future agenda, Dr. Adams.
There's a disturbance here someplace.
Something's wrong with the mayor's sound.
I missed most of the conversation because that was.
I'm sorry. Is there a problem on my end?
Yes.
Yes, there is.
There is.
Yes.
Continuing.
Well, Mayor, do you propose that we start this new schedule in May? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. If that'd be agreeable, but we can talk about it at the next meeting. But I'd like to say I just can't be on the 29th. But have we resolved the problems? Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, you're better now.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't, okay. So if we could proceed, items for future agenda, Dr. Adams,
None.
Ms. Battle,
None.
Mr. Deal,
Well, I mean, we need to make sure that we discuss the outage management system after Nathan has a chance to review the contract. And then we need to discuss changing the schedule of our meetings.
okay.
That's all.
Mr. Loeb,
Just would repeat what Jim said, and let's discuss the Power Supply Committee just whenever Mr. Stock is ready.
okay. One thing I would say about the Power Supply Committee, that is one thing that I wanted to have some parameters of what the committee's role was and what the expectations are. So I'm glad he's working on that. So just for clarification, the next meeting on the agenda, we'd like to have this outage management system, these proposals after the city attorney has reviewed them, discussion on future meeting dates and the Power Supply Committee. And I would like to have an update. It doesn't need to be at the next meeting if we can't get it. I have two questions from the presentation at the last meeting. I'd like to know more about this agreement with SEPA from 1996. Is there a termination date on that? Is there any way we can opt out? And then also, I would like to know about this agreement with the city of Griffin. Is there a termination on that? Is there any way we can opt out of that? So if we could look at that, those two contracts in the coming months, I think that would be beneficial. And finally, Ms. Subadan, we have a plaque we'd like to present to you. If you could you come into the room?
Sure, hold on one second.
My goodness. Yep. Can we see it? You got it? We're waiting for it to come. Oh, okay. Plaque here for the city manager, but it's actually to the general manager. It reads, "Thank you for serving as city manager, general manager. During your tenure, you exemplified outstanding leadership, vision, and courage. The utility is better positioned for the future because of your efforts. The Albany Utility Board sincerely appreciates your unwavering support throughout the years. Best wishes in your future endeavors."
Thank you so much.
Woohoo! Yeah!
Maybe wearing that. Another prompt.
Right? Thank you so much. Thank you.
Did you want to say anything?
Thank you, Ms. Subadan.
Thank you, Sharon.
Now, man.
Oh.
Am I in the shot if I said? Yeah, thank you, everybody. It's been my pleasure. I've enjoyed working with the utility. Working with the utility has been one of my the best parts of the job. We run it like a business, and so it really stretches us. And serving the community in this way has been extremely gratifying, and I really feel like you're positioned for the future. Thank you all very much, and thanks to staff for the great work that you do. Thank you.
Would any member of the board like to make a comment, Dr. Adams?
Yes, I would. I've had the pleasure of working with the whole city man, and I would like to just say personally, I feel that you have been at the top of the pack, and the city of Albany has certainly been blessed by having you as city manager. You are a young lady with a lot of poise, highly intelligent, stay on top of things, and I want to tell you that it's been a joy having worked with you, and I'd like to wish you good luck and Godspeed in your new endeavor.
Thank you, Dr. Adams.
Ms. Battle?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm so sorry. I'm forever fighting this phone. Well, Sharon, we have not worked together that long. Oh, wow. I was hoping I'd get to know more about you and get better acquainted. But, you know, thank you so much for what you have done for our beloved city of Albany. We really appreciate it. God bless you, and I pray that everything goes well for you for all of your future endeavors. And thank you on behalf of the other citizens in Albany. I'm sure we just wish you luck.
Thank you. You're very welcome.
Mr. Deal?
Yes, sir. Sharon, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Sharon, I want to thank you for doing a wonderful job for the city of Albany. You're leaving us better than you found us. I appreciate your character, your integrity, and your commitment. And I wish you the very best in your new endeavor. And I know you'll be a great success in the Atlanta area. It'll be their gain and our loss, but I'm grateful for the time we've had together, and I hope we'll be friends for a lifetime.
Thank you, Jim.
Mr. Logan?
Yes, Sharon, it has been my pleasure getting to know you. Thank you for all your support and what you've done for us as a city, and particularly the Utilities Board. Appreciate your professionalism and the skill set that you bring to the table. And as Jim said, I know you're going to do very well in your future endeavors, and I just wish you the very best. And may God bless you and your family.
Thank you, Stan.
Now, I just want to say on behalf of all the citizens of Albany, it's an extraordinary achievement that the utility board was able to continue to provide services through this pandemic. And it's quite, Ms. Subadan deserves a great deal of the credit for that, along with the staff. And I want to thank her for her service and wish her the best in the future.
Thank you. Thank you all so very much. Thank you.
There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned. I appreciate your participation, attendance, and service. Thank you.